Okay guys, very exciting here. I have a huge stack of scales. I have 4 scales there. Each one's rated for 660 pounds. What's up y'all? In this video, I'm weighing my new XMR 850. I'm also gonna weigh everything else in the garage, and I'm gonna weigh all the tires that are on these machines so I can give you a pretty representative idea of how much these things weigh in stock form, as well as how I have them set up right now. I have another video where I weighed a bunch of the BS accessories that came on the XMR 850. If you're interested in that, check out the link in the description. Some of those weights are used in this video because I did kind of a corrected stock weight where I went in and did some corrections to try to show you guys what the manufacturer's weight actually should be. Spoiler alert, Can-Am didn't lie on this one. They're actually really close to the true weight. However, they did take the XMR 850 weight off their website recently, but luckily I had it screenshotted in an older video. All right guys, people have asked for this a bunch of times, so I finally got it. I bought 4 scales, each rated at 660 pounds, so I can weigh all these vehicles. Can't weigh that. I can weigh the Jimmy though, and the Pioneer 500. So this is the Foreman 500 on the scale. It's not exactly stock. It's got the stretch I made on it. It's got 32 Aztecs on some old beadlocks. We're going to apply a correction factor when I put everything in Excel to account for the oversized tires. I've weighed a bunch of tires so we can subtract that out basically. This is my 3rd time doing this. The first time I did it, one of my scales was broken, so I had to do 2 and 2, and that wasn't very good. The second time I did it, I forgot to fill up the fuel tanks, and everyone wants the weights with full tanks. So here's what you guys really wanted to see. Here's the 2025 XMR 850 / XMR 1000. It's about to be a 1000 because I'm tuning it. But this weight will be the same for both of them. The only difference physically between the 850 and the 1000 is the clutch weights, but that's not enough to be a factor in the overall weight. So this is on the Tarachi 32 Aztecs and the Tarachi beadlock wheels. This will be very close to the factory weight because these tires and wheels are super light, even though they're 32s, and it came on those 30s stock, and those 30s were skinny wide. These are all fatty boys. It'll still be a pretty close weight, but I know the weights of those tires and these tires, so I'll put that in the spreadsheet. Anyway, front right, 280.6. Excuse me, that was front left. Front left, 280.6. Front right, 258.6. So it's a little off. Rear left, 271.6. And rear right, 299. And the suspension can't totally settle the way I'm doing it. I'm lifting it up and I'm setting it right down. Ideally, you'd want to drive onto these scales. I just don't think these scales are heavy duty enough to do that, so I'm gently setting the weight of the ATV down on them. Eventually I'll probably make some little ramp around the scale so I can easily drive up on it, these numbers should be pretty close. I've done it a bunch of different ways, and I know the scales are accurate. There is some scrub force, right, because the tires want to come out as the weight goes on them, kind of pushing on the scale. Played with it a bunch. I don't really think it's affecting the measurement too much, but that is a potential source of error. Here's the 32 Aztec on the scale. I'm just kind of pushing it sideways to balance it. It's not affecting the reading. We're at 54.8 pounds for a 32-inch tire on a beadlock wheel. That is hard to beat. All right, guys, here are the results. I'm not going to yap about it too much. It's pretty self-explanatory. This is the machine. Here's the total weight, and here's my corrected weight. For the corrected weight, I used these tire measurements down here of the tire and wheel combos to correct based on a stock tire. For a stock tire reference, I used this factory Foreman tire and wheel. It's the only thing I had sitting around. I didn't have the factory Pioneer 1000 or Pioneer 500 tires and wheels, so there's some error there, but it's relatively close. For the corrected weight, the Can-Am's a little more complicated because I added back in the weight of the bumper parts I removed and the frame stiffener for the winch. So yeah, that's what we got. The Can-Am's definitely heavy. 1,100 pounds is a really, really heavy quad. It doesn't feel that heavy because it's got a decent center of gravity. It's got a pretty wide stance. It's they've increased all the dimensions along with the weight basically, and it has really good shocks and sway bar and all that stuff. So you don't really notice the weight when you're riding it. It feels pretty sporty considering how heavy it is, but it is 300 pounds heavier than my Foreman on the same tires. So if you're comparing these two machines and you're trying to go hole for hole or whatever, the XMR 850 is not going to be as capable of walking through ruts and working at slow speed as the Honda if they're on the same tires. The difference is the XMR 850 doesn't have to go through it at slow speed. You can carry a little momentum, you can gain momentum in the hole, you could do a wheelie into the hole if you wanted to. Also, you can clean out your tires really well, but there's a quick blip of the throttle. Sometimes on a Honda, that's hard to do in really, really thick mud. The Aztecs clean themselves out in 90% of situations, but occasionally you need a little bit of wheel speed, and the Can-Am's always going to have that. So, you know, as far as like competitive mudding, I'd say I'd probably still go with a Honda, but the Can-Am sounds better, it looks better, and it's a lot more fun to ride in a lot of situations. So the correct answer is just to have both. We will get the XMR 700 weighed, and we'll put that on here in the near future. It's at my buddy's house, so I need to go over there and weigh it. But yeah, everything on here came out about as expected. We're pretty close to the manufacturer's weights. You got to remember, all my machines have soaking wet seat foam, and that is a pretty big difference for the Pioneer 1000 and the P500, which have 2 large seats. So I think that's one of the reasons they're a lot heavier, is just all that water sitting in the seat foam. Also, both my Pioneers have winches on them and winch mounts, so that's going to add some weight. And plus all the mods with heavy-duty control arms and all that. So I expect it to be heavier than the manufacturer weight. Honda's usually pretty honest, so I think the difference there is just weight that I've added. But anyway, here's the tire and wheel combos if you're interested in that. The new 32 Tarachi Aztecs on the Tarachi locks came up to 54.8 pounds as a combo, which is super freaking light for a 32-inch tire on a 14x7 beadlock. Really happy about that. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Every machine that comes in the garage, I'll borrow my friends and whatnot, and we'll keep adding to this list, and it should be pretty interesting. And 286.6. So this wheel has a lot less weight on it than the other one. So something goofy going on with this Pioneer suspension, which is no surprise because I've welded on different shock mounts, and those shocks are off different vehicles, yada, yada, yada. Basically, this tire is picking up that wheel because it extends down a little farther. Another thing that can change these kind of side-to-side measurements is your tire pressure. All right, so because I am something of a scientist myself, I reduced the preload to 0 on this wheel. This one is set at 2 clicks now. Before they were both at 2 clicks. And you can see now we're at 343 and 292. So they got a little closer. Not really that bad considering that this thing seats 3 people, has, like with the tune, 85 horsepower, giant bed, a lot of suspension travel, and yeah, I mean, it's pretty light, all those things considered. I mean, it's a very stout side-by-side. Granted, it does have some heavier tires on it right now, so we will subtract that out in the spreadsheet. And we'll see how close we can get to the OEM Honda weight. Now, the problem is it's got these really, really thick, beefy front control arms, and it's got a winch, and it's got rear lift brackets. So those are going to throw off the numbers a little bit, but hopefully we'll be fairly close to Honda.